To order. Can we start with a roll call, please?
Aziz Hassan.
James Meyer.
Norma Drummond.
Rocco Limatone.
So can I ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. So our next two meetings are going to be Tuesday, November 24th, which is 2 days before Thanksgiving, all right, and then December 22nd. So we actually do have a December meeting this year. We have one set of minutes to approve. We have minutes from September 24th. There were some amendments, including an action at the end. So do I have a motion to approve the amended minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good, thank you.
And again, the amendments were very minor.
Yeah, they were, except there was one that the public hearing.
Correct, yeah. But again, it was
Didn't
just,
close it, it was,
correct, but it was overall very,
oh yeah, no, Julie's doing a great job, thank you. Okay, so on tonight's agenda, there are two items of cleanup that we have to do, we noticed that there were some changes from what our resolutions identified, or something was missing in the first one. And we do have, item number 5 is going to be a refund, so that should be very, very quick. So we're going to start, the first two of our decisions are two previous items. So I'm going to start with item number 1, Appeal 3945, Wireless Edge Towers 2, LLC and Orange County Poughkeepsie Limited Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless. We need to adopt a negative declaration pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act seeker for a previously approved 110-foot monopole and associated ground-mounted equipment located within a 45-foot by 65-foot fenced gravel surfaced compound to be located on a 69-acre parcel at the intersection of Carpenter Road and the southwest corner of the Taconic State Parkway, pursuant to sections 194-76 through 194-84 of the zoning ordinance. So we did lead agency determination here, we did conducted public hearings, we did everything we needed to do. Our resolution just never included the actual neg deck. So we need to go back and adopt a neg deck. So I'm just looking for a motion to adopt the neg deck.
so moved.
Actually, there is a motion.
We have a decision,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a
I was going
resolution,
to ask
yes.
which way you want to go.
Very brief.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would then offer for the consideration on appeal number 3945, with the applicant being Wireless Edge Towers 2 LLC and Orange County Poughkeepsie Limited Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless, for lands owned or formerly owned by Robert Ferguson, whereas the project is an application for a special permit to construct a wireless telecommunications facility consisting of a 110-foot monopole and associated ground-mounted equipment within a 45-foot by 65-foot fenced gravel surface compound to be located on a 69-acre parcel at the intersection of Carpenter Road and the southwest corner of the Taconic State Parkway pursuant to sections 194-76 through 194-84 of the zoning ordinance, with said location on Carpenter Road. Resolution being offered by zoning board member James Meyer, and whereas Wireless Edge Towers 2 LLC and Orange County Poughkeepsie Limited Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless, hereinafter the applicant, applied for a special permit to construct a wireless telecommunications facility consisting of a 110-foot monopole and associated ground-mounted equipment located within a 45-foot by 65-foot fenced gravel surface compound, be located on a 69-acre parcel at the intersection of Carpenter Road and the southwest corner of the Taconic State Parkway. SBL 6557-01-071531, hereinafter the property, pursuant to sections 194-76 through 194-84 of the zoning ordinance. And whereas the ZBA granted the special permit at its July 28, 2020 meeting with conditions, hereinafter July 2020 decision D&O, and whereas the Condition number 1 in the July 2020 DNO stated the applicant obtains all necessary permits and approvals from the Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC, for a previously filled wetland area prior to erecting the monopole and share those approvals with the ZBA. If the applicant is unsuccessful in obtaining its required permits and approvals, then access to the site and location of the proposed tower must undergo a subsequent review by the ZBA. Whereas the applicant has been corresponding with the DA, which requested a copy of the negative declaration pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQA, and whereas the ZBA already held public hearings on this matter on May 26, 2020, and June 23, 2020, and no additional public hearings are required. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the annex negative declaration. Be it further resolved that the July 2020 DNO's grant of the special permit request and all of the accompanying conditions remain unchanged and continue to be controlling. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the decision in order to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Votes as follows. Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Rocco?
Aye.
And myself, aye. So the motion carries. Good, thank you. All right, so item number 2, Appeal 3954 Stewart Shops, number 364, Route 376. We need to amend the previous decision and order granted at the June 23rd, 2020 meeting for Stewart Shops, number 364, 860 Route 376, Wappingers Falls, to reflect the canopy size of 1,800 square feet. Apparently, our decision reflected a canopy size of 800 square feet.
Up to 1.
But what's there now, we believe, is approximately 1,600 square feet. We think there are a total of, there's 2 canopies there now that look to be approximately 60 by 100. The new canopies are going to be 20 by 90, so it's actually not as wide as what's there now, because they're going to reduce the pumps from the 4 to the 3, so they only need to cover the 3 pumps. So we have a resolution to offer on Stewart Shops.
Sure. Appeal number 3954, applicant is Stewart Shops Corp., DBA Stewart Shop, number 364. Project is a 27-foot front line variance from the requirements of the Schedule of Bulk Regulations for a proposed 1,800 square foot canopy. Location 860 Route 376, resolution offered by zoning board member Rocco Limatone. Whereas the applicant applied for a 27-foot front line variance for a proposed 1,800 square foot canopy, and whereas canopy areas already existed at the property, and a variance was requested due to the installation of the new canopy. And whereas the ZBA previously granted the applicant's variance request to install an 800 square foot canopy at its June 23rd meeting, 2020. And whereas after further review, the canopy is actually 1,800 square feet. And whereas the ZBA now wishes to clarify the correct size of the canopy pursuant to this amended decision and order. And whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals previously held public hearings on May 26th, 2020, and June 23rd, 2020, which was then subsequently closed on June 23rd, 2020, and no additional public hearing is required. And now therefore be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the request by Stewart Shop number 364, located at 860 Route 376, for a 27-foot front line variance for a proposed 1,800 square foot canopy pursuant to the Schedule of Bulk Regulations of the zoning ordinance. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the decision and order to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Votes as follows. Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Rocco?
Aye.
And myself, aye. So that motion carries. Okay, so item number 3 is Appeal 3963 Rodriguez. Michael Rodriguez, 45 Hoffman Road, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 5-foot left sideline variance and a 5-foot right sideline variance for a proposed 15-foot, 10-inch by 40-foot in-ground pool pursuant to Section 194-95 of the zoning ordinance. If board members remember, we did have already conducted the public hearing on this. We were just waiting for HOA approval. They actually granted us, we closed the public hearing in August. They granted us until tonight's meeting to be able to give them time to get the HOA approval. We do have that HOA approval in our folders. So at this point, there is a resolution to offer related to this. There's no other action or discussion needed.
This is appeal number 3963. Applicant is Michael Rodriguez, requesting a 5-foot left sideline variance and a 5-foot right sideline variance from the requirement of Section 194-95 of the zoning ordinance for a proposed 15 feet 10 inches by 40 feet in-ground pool. The property is located at 45 Hoffman Road, Hopewell Junction. Resolution offered by zoning board member Aziz Hassan, whereas the applicant applied for a 5-foot left and a 5-foot right sideline variances, the variances to allow for the installation of a 15-foot 10 inches by 40-foot in-ground pool, and whereas the property is located within the Hopewell Glen community, and whereas the applicant has received approval from the Hopewell Glen Homeowners Association to install the pool via letter dated October 22nd, 2020, and whereas this action is a type 2 action under seeker and no further action is required, and whereas the legal notice was published in the Southern Duchess News on August 12th, 2020, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals held a public hearing on August 25th, 2020, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be a deterrent to the community, as the pool is residential in nature. The applicant could install a smaller in-ground swimming pool compliant with the zoning ordinance, although the lots in Hopewell Glen are smaller than others in the same zoning district, since the lots were created pursuant to Town's Conservation Residential Development Authority, which permitted narrow lot configuration. The variance requested are not numerically substantial. The proposed area variances will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions. Now therefore be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the request by Michael Rodriguez for 1, a 5-foot left sideline variance, 2, a 5-foot right sideline variance for the requirement of Section 194-95 of the zoning ordinance for a proposed 15 feet 10 inches by 40 feet in-ground pool, subject to the installation of screening on both side yards and fencing as required by law. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, votes as follows: Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Rocco?
Aye.
And myself, aye. So that motion carries. All right. We are now up to public hearings. So we've cleared up our decisions. We have one public hearing this evening. So this public hearings are applications that the board's already had an opportunity to review. And then we will go to the last part of our agenda is reviews, which are generally the first time we see these different applications. So item number 4 is a public hearing for Appeal 2216 Shenandoah Farm LLC. Shenandoah Farm LLC, 270 Jackson Road, Hopewell Junction, is requesting an extension of their soil mining permit for Shenandoah Farms, which was granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals on July 8th, 2008, pursuant to Section 194-75 of the zoning ordinance. The permit was originally issued July 8th, 2008, renewed through August 27th, 2020. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, good evening. Mr. Jackson is here. And so, this is not the first, obviously, the mining has been operating there for the last 12 years. You've been here every 2 years. We've afforded your neighbors an opportunity to come and do a public hearing. Each time, we've also had the building department go out and do a review. The building department did do that in this case, and gave you a positive report. The soil mine, this is the report from September 18th. The soil mine appears to be as proposed and in compliance. Reclamation of property as materials are exhausted, very low activity. Stormwater best management practices are in use, no complaints issued. So again, the site is operating as it should. So are there any questions or comments from board members?
I'm good.
And your DEC permit runs through 2023, I want to say, or?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so you're still good with that, because they issue a longer permit than ours do. Our code only allows 2 years. So no questions from board members. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak for or against the request from Shenandoah Farm LLC, 270 Jackson Road, Hopewell Junction, requesting an extension of their soil mining permit for Shenandoah Farms, which was granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals on July 8th, 2008? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And
This is appeal number 2216. Applicant is Shenandoah Farms LLC, requesting a 2-year soil mining permit, special permit renewal pursuant to section 194-75 of the zoning ordinance. Resolution offered by zoning board member Aziz Hassan, whereas the applicant previously was granted a special permit pursuant to section 194-75 of the zoning ordinance for land excavation and filling, and whereas the special permit was previously renewed through August 27, 2020, and whereas the building department's recent inspection determined the property to be operating in compliance of its special permit, and whereas the applicant's renewal request is timely due to filing extensions pursuant to governor's executive orders, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals held a public hearing on October 27, 2020, and whereas the legal notice was published in the Southern Duchess News on October 14, 2020, and whereas this is a type 2 action under this State Environmental Quality Review Act seeker, and no further review is required. And now therefore be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants the applicant's request for a 2-year renewal for a soil mining special permit renewal pursuant to section 194-75 of the zoning ordinance, subject to the applicants obtaining a renewal for the special permit in 2 years and all conditions from prior decisions and orders remaining in effect. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the decision in order to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner.
is there a second?
Second.
Votes as follows: Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Rocco?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Okay, so just so you were clear, we are extending your 2-year permit from its August 27th expiration date, okay? So you are good through August 27th, 2022. You're all set. For guests leaving, are they still leaving through this door? Oh, okay, there's not enough people here to worry about, so you can go through that regular door. Thank you. Okay, item number 5 has been withdrawn, so I need a motion to issue it for the
So moved.
department to issue a refund, all but $5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so item number 6, Appeal 3974, Lori Joseph Builders, Inc. Lori Joseph Builders, 80 Fishkill Hook Road, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 75-foot side variance from I-84 for a future dwelling pursuant to the Schedule of Bulk Regulations, 194, Attachment 3, Note 11 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening. It depends what you're going to
Well, you
show
gotta show us
us.
first, then we can tell you whether we can see it.
Right now I see a blank piece of paper.
This is Gary Joseph of Lori Joseph Builders. He's the applicant, and my name is
You need
Bernard.
to stand at the microphone, please.
And my name is Bernard Lanza from the Batoli Lanza Architectural Group, representing Mr. Joseph. Our purpose here is to seek relief from the requirements of Note 11, Section 194, Attachment 3 of the Code of the Town of East Fishkill. That requires a 100-foot setback to any structure from the right-of-way from Interstate 84. And we're proposing a 25-foot setback. Other than that, the proposal complies with all other zoning regulations. The site is located, the site is located at the intersection of Fishkill Hook Road and Interstate 84. It consists of 1.38 acres. Mr. Joseph owns 13.28 acres that are contiguous to that parcel, and it wraps around the southerly and easterly sides of that. And just to make note that that 13.28 acres has a restrictive covenant associated with it that maintains it as forever green. The site has many unique features. It's got a stream running about halfway through it. It's got a wetland that parallels that stream just a few feet off of that. Steep topography, particularly toward the south end of that, and the majority of that site is forested. And Mr. Joseph started this project 20 years ago. This is actually the longest project I have ever been working on in my 43 years. That's something to say for Mr. Joseph. In 2000, he showed interest in acquiring this property, and it was the result of a couple of pieces of property that were sort of ancillary to a subdivision. And he needed to combine a paper road and another lot with this to meet the minimum 1 acre requirement. He accomplished that, and we obtained DOH approval for the septic system and the well in 2002, and over the course of time acquired various extensions to that approval for Mr. Joseph up until 2018. At that point in time, some DEC wetland mapping had came out that led the Department of Health to suspect that the wetland that was originally located along the easterly edge of this property had migrated somewhat to the west. We worked with the Department of Environmental Conservation to reflag the wetland, and it validated the respective map. And sure enough, we found out that the wetland did expand approximately 100 feet westerly during that 20-year period. Also during that 20-year period, the town added the 100-foot setback requirement from Interstate 84. So of course, redesign became necessary at that point in time. So we worked with the Health Department and DEC. We developed numerous designs, probably 8 to 10 designs, to address environmental issues, and most of those were associated with the wetlands and soils and groundwater and that type of thing. We eventually reduced the quantity of bedrooms that were proposed from 4 to 3. We tightened up and reduced the size of all buildable features on the site as much as possible, and inevitably we were able to avoid the wetland buffer completely and eliminate the need for the wetland permit and receive DOH approval for the septic system. So the design that we have here has DOH approval, which I think we received in April, and of course the town has a copy of that. So in order to have reasonable use of the land and comply with DOH and DEC requirements, we had no choice but to propose encroachment into the 100-foot buffer from I-84. And I'd like to then move on to the site plan so that you can appreciate that this dark line here represents the front yard setback. This line here represents the wetland buffer. And this line here represents the 100-foot buffer from I-84. So you can see what's left is a 573 square foot triangular, almost useless piece of property that is really all that's left for him to develop that property if he were to try to comply with all the regulations. And of course, the size and configuration of that property and its location on the site makes that impossible. So the adverse effects from views from I-84, and we brought some photographs, and we can certainly provide you with copies of these, demonstrate that the distances to the proposed house from 84 are 158 feet from the eastbound lane of 84, from the edge of pavement, and 350 feet at the closest part of the westbound lane. There's dense vegetation that covers it. The topography is such that the house is proposed to be on the downside of the hill south of 84, so approximately 17 feet of topography would be covering that up. From the eastbound lane, the overpass from Fishkill Hook Road will block the house completely, and the periods of view toward the house would be very short because of the blocked views and the vantage points. So in consideration of those factors, we ask that the matter be placed on the next available agenda, and so we can move this thing along and hopefully get some relief. Any questions?
So in the 20 years, how many times have you come to the zoning board to seek relief?
None.
Zero.
Was not required. In 2016, the town adopted a new law.
Excuse me,
I think it was 2000.
excuse
You
me,
need to go to the microphone.
I'm Gary Joseph, applicant. In 2000, I think it was 2016, the town adopted a new rule that any property adjoining 84 or the Taconic Parkway has to have 100-foot buffer from the property line. So that's what necessitated us to come here now, because in the past, there was never a
Well,
requirement.
It's any state or county road.
I'm sorry?
It's any state or county road. It's not just limited to the parkway.
Okay. I don't,
Yeah,
I-
okay.
I got you. So, as Mr. Lanza said, the edge of pavement to the right-of-way of 84 is 125 feet roughly. It's quite wide there, and then is our property, so we would have some distance from 84. But to answer your question, we were not required to come before the zoning board at all prior to this new 2016.
So I guess the biggest question we have is any user, anybody who buys this house is going to need a variance for anything that they're going to want to do on that property again. It's an issue that we've already dealt with once, where we've put covenant or put, restrictions on the property, and then they had to come in anyway because they did it not realizing they weren't allowed to do it.
If they were to construct more than that's being proposed
Right.
here right now.
Right.
Yes.
If they wanted to put a shed up, if they wanted to, So what is the size of the house that you're proposing here? Because it's not a normal look of a house.
I think it's 30 by 50, it's 1,500 square feet
Footprint, yeah.
footprint. A little less than that, I think it's, 25 by 46. It's a relatively small house, it's only a 3-bedroom house.
And is there a garage with this house?
I'm sorry?
Is there a garage with this house? So again, if the family that buys this wants to put up a garage, they're gonna need a variance. Anything they're gonna wanna do on this lot is going to need a variance. And,
Unless, of course, it goes in that little gray area right there, which is not going to be like, put a swing set in there.
Yeah, so just, when you went through that, so just why, what prevents you from being between that proposed house and that gray area?
It's only 500.
Oh, what prevents us from moving these closer?
yeah,
Oh, because the septic system, the leaching areas are literally right on the edge of the wetland buffer. So we got those as close as we could to the wetland buffer, and then we've got minimum separations from the house to the septic tank, minimum separations from the house to the absorption area, so this really can't be squeezed together.
You can't swap the house and the leach fields?
Well, the topography drops down in this direction here, and we've got rock up in this area. We've got nice sandy soils up there, so we certainly wouldn't want to put, nobody really wants to have a septic system up above at a higher topographic elevation than residence, because you're almost inviting, sanitary problems in your house, to pump up above your house and then have sanitary effluent there.
My wife's aunt and uncle had that.
I'm sorry?
My wife's aunt and uncle had that in Connecticut for 20 years, never a problem. So I don't know how much the elevation was, but for them, it was much higher.
Yeah.
Higher
Well,
above there.
what I can tell you is that we did go through, as I said, 8 to 10 designs with DEC and DOH, and we were literally using a shoehorn and actually needed to request relief from DOH.
But the actual question I was asking, then you can't put a garage or anything there because it's on top of your leach field.
That's correct.
which means they're gonna wanna put it in their front yard.
Yeah. And the house doesn't have a basement then, or is you put?
Well, the topography drops down, so the lower level of the basement is actually at grade level down here, but it's completely under grade on these sides of the house.
And then above the basement is 2 stories or 1 story? You're putting a
One
ranch?
story. I'm sorry, 2 story. This is, based upon the town's definition of stories, this is actually a 2-story building. A 2-story building with a basement.
With an open air basement, is what you're saying. I guess the way you're describing it to me. So you're gonna
It's
have,
a walkout on the bottom,
yeah.
You would be able to walk out from the
on
basement to
one
grade.
side.
It's 2 floors and a basement,
That's correct.
with a basement walkout, right?
And you can't put a garage in the basement?
That's what I'm getting.
No, we can't get the garage in the basement because of the elevational change. So when we come in off of the grades are dropping pretty quickly down here from Fishkill Hook Road. So by the time we get down to the driveway, we can only get to a point where we're approximately 4 feet below the first floor elevation. So we just can't get down that far.
What's the slope of the driveway?
Well, we're 4% at the, coming off of Fishkill Hook Road, we're 4% at the house, and we're about 14% in between. 12 to 14%.
Really sandwiched in there.
Yeah.
It is, it's a very tight site, there's no 2 ways about it.
For 15-acre parcel.
Is that the size of the parcel?
2 parcels together are roughly.
Wow.
How many acres?
There's a 13, I think a 13.25 acre that was part of the former Four-Season subdivision that was granted to this property many, many years ago. So then there's 2 parcels. Then there was as Bernard mentioned, there was a 3/4 acre parcel that was
Yeah.
carved out when 84 went through in the 60s. And the East Hook Gun Club had owned this property. That 3/4 acre parcel and the 13.25 acre conservation piece is what I had bought from the gun club back in the day. When we came to get permits, we found out we were gonna need variances. There was a paper road that went through the properties.
On the opposite side from 84 from the other one we did.
Exactly.
Came through the properties, and when we abandoned, we petitioned the county, when that road got abandoned, half of the road went to the 3/4 acre parcel, half went to the 13 acre parcel. Then we acquired additional land from a former neighbor, Michelini, I think was the name, that then gave us the 1 acre parcel to comply with the zoning at the time.
You just said this was a 13 or 15 acre parcel. It says it's a 1.38 acre.
He's talking about the contiguous.
The adjacent parcel is also owned by me.
But, I mean, but basically that parcel was granted out from the subdivision because they knew it was useless.
But
What market value does
when the
that
house
have?
gets sold, the whole thing is going to get sold to whoever buys the house. It will be approximately, what is the total acreage?
It's about 15 acres.
Roughly 15 acres in total once. But I can't combine them. If I combine them, I believe the whole parcel then becomes part of the conservation easement. If I were to combine the 2 parcels. So there's 2 separate parcels there that are owned, that are contiguous.
Yeah, well, that's why I just disagree with the saying that you only have that little bit based on 15
Over
acres.
the larger parcel that you're saying you can't build on, there's a conservation easement on that part?
Yes,
Okay. Do you know who holds that conservation easement?
I do. Well, the town or whatever, but I own the property. It happens to have an easement on it,
But
that
a
nothing can ever be built.
conservation easement would have a meets and bounds description. So just because you've added more land to the parcel doesn't mean that the conservation easement would grow. There's still a meets and bounds description that's described
Well,
that would
it's-
limit the conservation easement.
This is when it was acquired, we were, I don't know how it's described
Okay.
as a
All right.
conservation
Yeah, I'm not
easement.
sure if it's a restrictive covenant or what it is on it, but it is, it's forever green. And I guess the only point that Gary was trying to make is when someone, even if they were gonna be separate owners, if someone purchases this 1.3 acre parcel with this cute little house on it, what have you, there really is, as you say, really nothing else that can be developed in this whole area of 15 acres. So it winds up being a nice little house in a big area of, forested land.
But they can't do anything else on the property.
Right.
That's the problem. People come in and they buy the house and they say, no, you can't put a garage up, you gotta keep your cars outside. And the question becomes, because we've had the problem, which is why it's raised, is people then say, well, I wasn't told this.
Right.
Why should I expect that I can't put a garage up when I bought 15 acres?
I don't know if you can grant a variance with the understanding that any prospective buyer is notified that nothing else, I have no problem with that, notified that nothing else can ever be done on the property, built, whether it be a shed or a garage or,
See, but that sort of then begs the question, when you got this property, you knew the conservation easement was on it, correct?
Not on the 1.3
Not on this
acre.
one.
No, but again, you knew that the 13 acre lot was
Right,
not
but-
something that you could do anything with. So that's why there's a little bit of circuitous reasoning here. You can't say, I'm stuck with this tiny buildable thing on 15 acres.
Well, the problem-
You really put together a 1.3 acre lot, and now you're trying to figure out what to do with it, not on 15 acres.
the problem became when the town, about 4 years ago, changed the zoning. But prior to that, I could have built a house there and we wouldn't have any issues. I didn't need any variances. When the 100-foot buffer from the 84 right-of-way came into effect, that is
That
what
part I understand.
created the problem
But
for me.
I think that law changed at least 10 years ago. It's not 4 years.
I don't know the exact date.
It's a long time.
Gary got involved, whatever date it was after, he got involved in this piece of property in the year 2000. We got approvals in 2002. That law didn't exist at that point in time. So at that point in time, if he had a crystal ball, he could turn back in time, he would have built this house back in 2002. But since then, he wasn't aware that the town adopted this new setback regulation, and so when we went to the health department to get extensions on it, we weren't aware that, some zoning issues had developed that hadn't been there before.
And then when we did come in for a variance about a year ago, we were told that we had to get DEC approval and Health Department approval first before coming to the town. And it's irrelevant how much I spent, but a small fortune was spent in obtaining those approvals from DEC and the Health Department to get to this point to allow us to apply for the variance.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Is there a way of putting a garage in there?
How
Because
big,
I know for a fact, is there a way of putting a garage in there, in that location?
If we build a retaining wall, can we get into the basement? I mean, I'm not opposed to that.
I mean, we can take a look at it, but the difficulty is getting, is going to
Septic.
get down to that elevation, and then we're gonna have that much more impervious coverage, getting the drive down there.
Sorry, we need you to be speaking into a microphone.
they're thinking
okay?
out loud, I think is the issue.
Yeah,
No, I appreciate that you're trying to answer his question.
I
but-
don't know the answer to that question right now.
The reason is because we know, when it snows, people want to put their car in some,
Right?
Yeah, and,
or they want to make a canopy or something, and then they're going to make a structure in front of the house. So we know that the shed, it's a small structure, they can put a small little,
and what you're saying is true, and what's also true, and this was an issue when I was proposing an 86-unit housing project for Anthony Segretti here in the town of East Fishkill a few years ago, and we were showing garages, and the point was made and very well taken that, hey, listen, most people don't use the garages for cars. They wind up storing things in there, and they look to park their cars outside inevitably anyway. So I understand the concept of a garage, but there's a lot of people that just use it for storage and actually don't put their vehicles in there.
so that means that they don't
But the
need,
storage would be necessary if they can't get a shed, so.
Exactly.
That's not a bad idea still. I appreciate where Aziz is
Oh,
going with
they've
this.
got a 1,500 square foot basement to store things in too. We're not trying to, This is a proposal that's being made on its own merit. We're not coming in here and proposing this and asking you guys to dog-ear things so that later on somebody can put a garage in or a shed in or whatever. We're asking you to process this thing and review this on its own merits for exactly what it is. Any subsequent buyer would be notified or advised by the seller in terms of what the limitations are, and certainly, you know, they should have their own architects and engineers doing their own due diligence and performing their own investigations. If they don't do that, and it does happen where people don't do their job and don't do their due diligence, and they come to you and say, geez, I wish I could put a garage in, they just can't. Those are the regulations. They can come back to you and, you know,
They
and
don't like to hear that.
seek another type of relief, but
Okay.
it doesn't seem fair to not provide relief.
Please don't minimize the experience on this board with the fact that right across the other side of I-84, we had the same experience happen here,
Sure.
okay? So please don't minimize the issues that we're talking about here.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, and I'm not,
And then we try to say you have to put conditions in, and then they're not in the deed,
then
and the people come to
Exactly.
us. And they were supposed to put it in. And it's not. So then they're looking at us with, you know, inquiring eyes, and no, you don't want to send people away that bought a house that thought that they had adequate property, and other people maybe didn't do their job. Maybe their attorney didn't do it, maybe the title company
If I
didn't.
may,
I don't know.
if,
But
go ahead, I'm
I
sorry.
just want to ask a question. Can
Yes.
can you get down, you keep talking about the slope, can you get down to that gray triangle, or that's not
no,
reachable?
it's too far down.
Is it a requirement to have a garage when you build a house?
No.
No, we're just trying to anticipate, because people buy a house, they want a swimming pool, they want a garage, they want a shed. This is what we do over and over again, we get these requests, so we try to look at it, and, you know, maybe in the end it becomes something, and, yeah, we try to put the requirement in there, you gotta put it in your deed, that there's no further structures allowed on this property. I don't know. We have required to look at those things and ask these questions.
And I'm not opposed to that, if I have to put that into into the deed, that no further structures of any kind would be permitted on this property.
I think, I mean, I'm not very convinced. I think you need to come back with a better, now that you've heard us, I think you need to come back with a better proposal, move things around, do something with it, because I know we've gone through 10 different variations or something, but I think you have enough acreage up there to be able to,
The challenge is the septic system, we can't move the septic system, so therefore we can't move the house any closer because of setback requirements on the septic system.
When you said the wetlands have encroached more, which direction are they encroaching? Toward the house?
Yeah, correct, yes.
Okay,
Approximately
so,
100 feet.
so that also creates an additional
Sure.
issue
And that's why here, this here is the.
30 years from now when this owner's,
It may move again.
Yeah.
So the validation is only good for 5 years.
right.
so
Did they, I'm sorry, go
if
ahead.
the wetlands move another 30 feet, they're right in the house.
Yeah, but it's,
Well, you got a
it starts
buffer
going
there.
uphill.
No, this is the buffer here.
I know, but again, the
That's
buffer,
a 100
but the
feet
buffer would
buffer.
move again.
Sure.
Did they ascribe a reason to the movement of the wetlands?
No, it's really moved, but I mean, there could have been.
So all the other
trees
developments.
that came down here, there could have been beaver activity that bogged things up and caused the.
Oh, I understand it. I'm asking if they did ascribe a reason to it. Okay.
When I walked the property with the DEC, it was all about the skunk cabbage, where does it grow, delineates the wetlands. So whether there was more topsoil decay that allowed, or it was a wet spring that allowed this
Yeah.
cabbage to grow, that was what they based on as we
Wasn't a wet
climbed up
spring.
the hill. It's kind of a
Okay, do you know where the previous wetland line was? I'm just curious
yes.
how far it has encroached since
It's
the
moved,
lease.
like I said, about 100
I know.
feet. We do
It
have.
moved
an-
100 feet.
I'm sorry?
It moved, you're telling it moved 100 feet
That's
in
right.
what time period?
20 years.
So in 100 feet, in another 20 years, the house is going to be in a wetland.
Yeah.
well, the topography goes up quite steep
Yeah.
from that point.
Okay,
So
that
it-
helps, thank you.
Yeah.
Looking at,
But you did tell me that there's a 15% grade to get down the driveway to get down
And
there.
it continues down to the wetlands.
Are these 2-foot contours or 5-foot contours on your survey here?
They're 2 foot.
So it's,
What I was gonna say, the former road used to drive right through that wetlands.
so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. It looks like the house is only up 16 feet from, that's still significant, though.
It's really just like planted, right there.
You have a retaining wall in the back? What is that?
There's a
No, back, behind the house.
No.
What is that dark,
That?
yeah,
Oh, that's a hay bale check.
that's a what?
A hay
bale.
bale check.
Oh, okay,
Erosion, yeah.
okay, so that's for your construction, okay. I don't know, what's the pleasure of the board? I mean, I agree with Aziz, I'd like to see if you can get a garage in there. If there's
I would
any
love
way
to
you
put
can
a
do that.
garage in. I would love to put a garage
Yeah,
in.
to use that basement a little bit and,
What we may be able to do is put a garage in on the first floor and take some living space away and drive into the
And
first
then,
floor.
and then create a split level.
I mean, that's an option that I have done before.
Yeah. Or, yeah, make an entrance where you have an entrance and garages off to one side, that kind of style house, I don't know. You're saying you can't bring the house forward anymore at all either?
No,
So you can't really add a garage out to the front?
right. This is a tremendous right-of-way here. This is actually our property line here, and the road edge of pavement is back here. So we're talking about almost 50 feet from the edge of pavement till we get to our property line. So we don't really have a whole lot,
Okay.
the building is on the front, right on the front property line setback here. And exclusive of the 100-foot setback requirement from 84, the standard setback, side yard setback requirement would otherwise be 25 feet, and that's where we are here, 25 feet. So we've tucked this thing as tightly as we can up into the corner there.
okay, so but it begs the question, if we're already here for a variance,
Yeah.
can you make it better if we grant a second variance? Can you get that garage in there? Can you do something?
Can we build a attached or detached garage?
Yeah,
Attached garage and maybe give you a 10-foot variance for the front.
Move it forward, basically towards the road,
I mean,
towards the Fishkill Hook Road. So you would actually,
you might have to have a switchback in your driveway there to get it,
So then ask for an additional variance on
Right.
the front line.
Yeah.
because you're showing us you can do it,
Yeah.
but we're saying it would make the house better, and it would probably likely eliminate work for us in the future if there's a garage in this house.
Okay, we'll look at that.
Okay, then that raises up probably another variance, and that would be, as ambiguous as it's written, your code requires that the facade of a house be orientated toward the frontage.
Right?
And so, of course, this building has 4 facades to it, but I'm sure what you mean is the main facade, that it looks like the entrance and what have you.
The front
So-
entrance.
So we designed this in such a way so that this would have a nice facade. We haven't designed the building yet, but understanding how the building would be laid out and creating a nice stoop and a porch in the front and what have you, we laid it out so it could be designed with a nice facade toward here. Now, if we want to put in a garage up there, it's going to look a heck of a lot less than like the main
Well,
entrance of the house.
Would that trigger a variance for the facade not facing
Well,
the main road?
I think you can do both. I mean, you could have a garage that's maybe set off to one side a little bit and still have a front entrance. There are house designs like that. You're an architect, you get creative. Come back to us.
Show us the front elevations, and let us see what you're talking about. See what your
But
options
certainly
are.
there's house plans that, you come in, the
All right.
garage is here, and then you have the other half of the house here with an entrance in it, so it's a jog on it. and you
We'll work
still-
on that.
Yeah. you
Yeah,
can
I just think, if we're here anyway, let's make it a better house, and,
Yeah, I'm not because you have such a wide right-of-way. So
Right.
if we took and gave you a variance for 10, 15 feet on the front line, maybe that's
Could you
something
give
that
us,
would make it better.
you think you could give us 20 feet so we can get the depth of a car into that garage?
Okay,
see.
but let's not get greedy. Show us what you need. All right?
Would the board like a shed proposed by the
What?
applicant? Would the board like the shed to be proposed by the applicant as well to try to prevent any future work?
No.
No shed, okay.
Let's give them if they've
Maybe
got a
yes.
basement with storage, with storage capacity, I think a garage is important, and then that eliminates.
And if they decide to use it for a shed, that's their choice,
That's
like
their-
you mentioned before.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll see you next month. Now you know why the public hearings went so smoothly, because we do all this work ahead of time. All right. All right, item number 7, Appeal 3975, Presville. Am I saying your name right? Thank you. Donna Presville, 3 Tina Lane, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 10-foot rear line variance for a 933 square foot addition pursuant to the schedule of bulk regulations. So again, this is the first time we are seeing your application.
My name is Steve Gergachich. I'm actually the architect.
Okay,
The owner is Donna Presbill, and what we're doing is creating an apartment for her father and her mother, who are elderly, that they plan on moving in. And what we decided to, what we did was, we enclosed currently, which is not the code, a screen porch. Basically, we and in the back it drops 2 stories, in the front it's 1. And so, by enclosing the existing screen porch, our setback is only 41, or 40.6 feet, 40.5 feet. So we're asking for a 9.5-foot variance. You can see here where this dot is, this is the views of this corner with variances. As you go further up the property line, you get within 20 feet of it. The area that we're asking the variance for is typically, I took these pictures yesterday. Typically, it's during the summer months, you can't even see the neighbor's house there.
great.
So by enclosing the porch, we took something that was above and then also included it downstairs in the new suite for her parents.
You should,
So
the fact that it was enclosed, the porch should still have had a variance. Was there, do you have permits and stuff for the enclosure and the porch originally?
I was hired, the porch was there, the porch was indicated on the survey. I don't know if the setbacks were changed.
Well, but then it was enclosed. Was there a building permit for the enclosure of the porch?
I don't know if there was a permit for the, I'm trying to get the permit for the enclosure of the porch.
Oh,
That's what we're trying to do.
oh, yeah, I thought you said you're trying to get the porch enclosed.
Yes,
I thought you said you enclosed the porch.
no.
Oh, I'm confused. I'm sorry. I missed something.
We have right now an existing second-story porch that's built on stilts, on posts.
Okay, so there is already an enclosed porch there.
Yes, an enclosed screen porch on the second story. So what we're doing is insulating and getting rid of the screen, creating it as an interior space on the second floor. And
So-
below, we're creating space for the apartment we plan on putting in.
Ray's report. Screen and deck, okay. All right, so the screened-in deck has a permit. It's okay.
Yes.
What the issue is that you have on the property is that there's a 6-foot fence along Lake Walton Road that is not accounted for. So, again, I agree, I drive by this property all the time.
Okay.
I agree with you, you don't even see the fence honestly,
Yes.
so the screening that's there during the summer is definitely adequate. So,
If the board requires us to remove the fence or lower the fence, that is not a problem.
well, or we just give you a
That would even be better.
variance while we're at it, because if anybody's using that backyard, it's,
Yes.
It's gonna be it serves a function. Okay. So, just if you wanna see the property report.
Does the shed have how big is the shed in the back?
The shed, 10 by 15, 150 square feet maybe, the existing shed they have.
You don't know the dimensions of the shed yet?
Because
The shed, I'm not proposing a new shed.
No, because do you have a variance for the shed or a permit for the shed?
I have no idea if there's a shed here. You can see what
the
the
shed,
setbacks are.
it says the shed's okay.
Oh, the shed is okay?
Yeah, sorry, that's a shed. So you're proposing the 990 square feet is one floor? So, I mean, in essence, you're increasing this size of this house, the footprint of this house,
Oh,
by
I
more
see.
than 50%.
What we're doing is taking on the second floor where right now there's a porch, we're enclosing that as living space. So that will be enclosed, it will be insulated. Below it, we're putting in a brand-new foundation. So we're adding that second floor interior, space, which is right now considered an outdoor screen porch. And then below, we're also adding that space. So that's what makes it a lot larger.
Are you just under the porch or almost the whole length of the house?
It's almost the whole
No,
house.
under the porch, and then another, I believe it's 30
Because you keep
feet.
saying under the porch, I know. You keep saying under the porch, I think it's limited to that space.
I'm sorry, I thought,
That's
like
all
I
right.
said,
I'm tired. It's been-
Sabatini asked me to come here,
That's all right.
and
Well-
he said he submitted everything to you. I thought you had elevations and such of the property.
Well, we have
We have a survey.
a
That's what we have.
survey, and I'm just getting confused, and it's been a long
Yeah.
day with other work and stuff, so that's all right.
So
It
it's
seems to be
the length of the back of the house then,
Yes.
you're proposing with, part of it where the
By
porch
man.
is.
Currently, right here, this
Okay.
is the
Can you just
existing porch.
bring that up here so we can, and we'll just share it amongst ourselves? Thank you.
Yeah, because
Back to the microphone.
what I'm seeing is that you're proposing a,
You have
42
house
feet.
plans?
yeah, correct, yeah, 42 feet by 16-foot approximate addition.
Yes.
So it's like, it's almost over 50% of the current house right now. Because if you look at the ranch that you have up here, it's almost a big portion. I haven't calculated, but it's, right now the front is 46 feet. Now you're putting another 42 feet by 16 feet.
Yes, we're doing,
Correct.
again, it's to make it into a mother-daughter house.
Yeah, I
Her
understand.
parents are in their 80s, they need a place, so this is what we came up with for a nice apartment. I made everything handicap accessible, all the hallways, the bathrooms. I made it on the first floor, not the second floor, so that they can pull their car in. There's the ground is level. They could, if necessary, have a walker or a wheelchair to be able to get in. So that's what dictated the design instead of going up as well. The upstairs was just, if we were going to enclose that downstairs space between the existing screen porch, why not then just enclose the screen porch and make it an extra space for above? And then we're also renovating a little bit on the inside as far as a new kitchen on the second floor goes.
Okay. So there is a second kitchen proposed here?
Yes.
Okay, so are we treating this as an accessory apartment? How are we treating this? Because a house is not allowed two kitchens.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Mother-daughter, as long as they are,
Get an accessory unit apartment, you do a separate permit.
Right, that's why I'm asking that question. Do we treat this as an accessory
And have
apartment?
two kitchens in a house.
Okay. And how about your septic? Are you,
we're expanding the existing septic system to handle the extra bedroom, to a
Okay.
4-bedroom. Actually, the gentleman moving in, Pete, and his wife, he's a civil engineer, so he knows, all
Okay.
about that. I've spoken to the Department of Health to get approvals, and we've gotten them. And basically, this is, when I originally did it, I didn't realize because of the property and the way that the setbacks go, that it was considered a rear setback where it was, because it's really on the side of the house, but because of the angle.
Right, in the front yard.
Yeah, so if you took a line from the back straight up, it's well in compliance. But if you go perpendicular, we are 9.5 feet short.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from board members? If not, I'm good.
Motion to advertise?
Second?
Just, have they talked with any of their neighbors?
I believe they get along fine with their neighbors. I think they notify them about this meeting.
Okay. They may want to have a conversation with a neighbor or two before the public hearing.
Certainly.
That's all. Okay.
Do you need this back?
Yes. All right, so I have a motion for a public hearing.
All right.
Is there a second?
Yeah, Rocco said second.
All in favor of public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All set?
Yes.
You have to see,
Jackie will give you your information about your signs. You will need 2 signs. You have 2 front yards. Okay, so you need one on both Tina and on Lake Walton. Okay?
Thank you, have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
And I'm not seeing, oh, okay, wait a second. Jackie, the last one, Daniel Woods, this is the one you told, he what? They had something come up to this evening. Okay, so item number 8 is tabled for this evening. Okay, motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn, second.
All in favor?
Third. Aye. Fourth.